I stood in the corner of the riverfront hotel ballroom, the crystal chandeliers above reflecting every shimmering drop of champagne in my glass. In the center of the room, my sister, Madison, spun gracefully in her snow-white wedding gown, which cost $12,000. The entire hall was filled with laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses that felt as hollow as the smiles around me. Only I stood silent, watching the bank debt figures dance in my head like a waking nightmare. Madison was always the family's princess, and me, I was Lily, 35, an auditor, living by the book, never the center of attention, never really needed, unless there was a mess to clean up. And this time, the mess was a $55,000 loan Madison had tearfully begged me to co-sign. According to her, this dream wedding in Boston simply couldn't happen without a castle venue, imported orchids, or an A-list live band. All those luxuries required money. Money she didn't have. I remembered that fateful afternoon vividly, when Madison, mascara streaked down her face, collapsed in front of my office door. "Lily, you're the only one. Only you can help me." She sobbed, as if her world was collapsing. I gave her a tired, bitter smile. "You're drowning in credit card debt, your husband's startup doesn't even have a tax ID yet, and you want to borrow over 50 grand for what you call the most important day of your life? Wake up, Madison." But Madison didn't back down. And like a worn-out play I knew by heart, my parents jumped in. My mom pulled me into the living room, setting out warm apple pie, her voice dripping with sugar. "You know your sister has dreamed of the perfect wedding since she was a little girl, Lily. Haven't you always been the one to sacrifice for the family? This is no different." Dad puffed on his cigar, flipping through the sports section, lazily chiming in. "Madison will pay back every penny, Lily. She's a woman of her word. Don't make things difficult over a few numbers." I let out a loud, hollow laugh that echoed through the house full of old, worn-out memories. When has she ever kept her word? Like when she borrowed money to open that bakery and abandoned it for a yoga retreat in California. Or when she forgot to pay her rent and I had to cover for her. Mom flushed, her voice turning sharp. "You're so selfish, Lily. Your sister has dreams, ambition, while you only see ledgers and invoices." Gripping my glass tightly, I swallowed the anger burning in my throat. I knew this game too well. Emotional blackmail dressed up as family love. Pushing me into the role of the cold-hearted sister, ruining Madison's fantasy. In the end, I signed. Not for Madison. Not for my parents. I signed because this time I had clauses they wouldn't see coming. 3 days later, I sat in my small New Haven apartment, the glow of my laptop screen reflecting off the glass of red wine beside me. Genesis, my best friend and attorney, sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Lily, are you sure? There's no turning back this time." I flipped through the contract, my voice calm. "That's exactly why I'm making sure this ends right." Genesis smirked, pouring more wine, tapping her fingers on the table. "You're going to let them fall into the hole they dug themselves?" I didn't deny it. That night, we rewrote the entire loan agreement. Every clause, airtight, no loopholes. Quietly, Genesis inserted a clause under extended guarantor responsibility, ensuring that if Madison and Brad left the U.S. without settling the debt on time, the responsibility would shift directly to my parents. Genesis pointed to the line, eyes still on me. "They'll sign it without reading." I smiled faintly. "They've never read a thing I signed. I'm just following their rules." On the day of signing, I treated it like a corporate board meeting. Neatly bound files, bolded clauses. I even invited the bank's lawyer to our home, leaving no room for excuses. Madison flipped through a few pages, wrinkling her nose. "Oh my God, Lily, this is so complicated." "I trust you. If you sign it, I'll sign it." Brad signed, as if he was authorizing vacation leave. When it was my parents' turn, Genesis quietly slid the pen toward them without a word. Mom frowned. "Lily, you always make things so complicated. Your sister will pay, you know." I just smiled politely. Just in case, Mom. And they all signed. None of them paused to read. I collected the documents and stood up. All done. Madison's dream wedding is happening. Madison hugged me tightly, her voice dripping with sugar. You're the best sister ever, Lily. I let her hug me, keeping my face blank. To them, I was still the naive older sister. But they had no idea. I was the one writing the rules now. 3 months after their picture-perfect wedding, reality set in, but not the version Madison and Brad had flaunted. The first loan payment was due on June 15th. I had it circled on my calendar, the bank account ready to track the funds. Instead, I got silence. No transfer, no confirmation message. I triple-checked, then called Madison. Number disconnected. Brad? Same. Everything became clear when I saw Madison's Instagram post. A photo of the two of them lounging at a luxury resort in Bali. The turquoise sea behind them, the caption smug. The world belongs to those who dare to dream big, debt-free life. Cheers to us. I stared at the screen. Dozens of comments praising them. No one knew the truth behind that glossy image. No one but me. Brad and Madison had vanished. No warning. No repayment on the loan I co-signed. No replies to my texts, emails, or calls. I tried reaching out through old friends. All I got was a void. And a cold, smug message from Brad. Relax, Lily. Madison and I will handle it. You just keep doing what you do best, worry. I didn't bother replying. I knew Brad too well. He thought I'd scramble, like always, patching the holes they left. He thought I was still the obedient sheep, afraid to disrupt the family image. But they didn't know. The rules had changed. Genesis showed up at my office one late afternoon, holding 2 coffees, her eyes wary. I guessed it, didn't I? They're gone? I nodded, opened my laptop, and showed her the latest post. It was a story clip of Brad signing a contract to open his company in Dubai, his radiant smile making it seem like he never owed anyone a dime. Genesis raised an eyebrow. You're ready to activate the clause? I smiled slightly, flipping open the folder I had already prepared on the table. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Genesis looked at me, silent for a beat. Lily, are you sure you're ready? Your parents are going to lose it when they find out they're now on the hook for the debt. I gently tapped the clause in the contract. Everything was crystal clear, impossible to deny. They always taught me that families should take responsibility together. Stay united. I'm just following exactly what they preached. Genesis let out a sarcastic chuckle. I'm starting to feel sorry for them. I didn't laugh. There wasn't even a shred of pity left in me. 3 days later, I received the first call from the bank. The loan officer's voice was hoarse but professional and firm. Hello, Miss Lily Carter. Your co-signed loan is now officially overdue. As per the loan agreement, we are formally notifying you that repayment responsibility will now transfer to Mr. Albert and Mrs. Vivian Carter. The documents are being finalized and will be delivered to them within the next 24 hours. I sat still, feeling as if a decade-long burden had finally been lifted off my shoulders. Outside the window, the September air was crisp and cool. I threw on a sweater and stepped onto the balcony, watching the faint sunset over the New Haven skyline. My phone stayed silent. No more texts, no more calls begging for help from Madison. Only absolute silence. The calm before the storm. And I knew that storm was closing in fast. I'm not impulsive by nature. I waited a full 10 days after the payment deadline, staying quiet, letting them believe I would once again play the predictable savior. I wanted to be sure Brad and Madison were in too deep to crawl back out. When there was still no sign of payment in the account, I opened my laptop, reviewed every document, double-checked each clause with the bank's legal team. No errors, no loopholes. The extended guarantor clause stood right where it was supposed to, undeniable. I emailed the bank all the proof that Brad and Madison had left the United States without any legitimate repayment plan. One-way flight tickets to Dubai, check-in photos, even the flashy promotional video Brad had plastered all over social media for his new company. Attached was also a copy of the contract bearing my parents' signatures, plain as day. Genesis called me that night, her voice lower than usual. "You really sent it?" I replied simply, "Sent. And the bank has received it." I knew exactly what would happen next. I knew exactly who would call. But I let the phone ring 4 times before picking up. "Lily!" My mother's voice pierced through, shrill and panicked. "Someone from the bank just called. They said we owe nearly $60,000. What the hell is this? What did you do?" I leaned back in my chair, staring at the dim glow of my desk lamp. "Read the contract, Mom. The extended guarantor clause. You and Dad signed it." I heard frantic paper shuffling, pages turning. Then silence. A heavy kind of silence, not from confusion, but from understanding. "You? You trapped us?" My mother hissed through the phone. I chuckled softly. "No, Mom. I'm just following the law." Dad took the phone. "Lily, you're tearing this family apart. Madison and Brad are just a little behind, that's all. Do you really have to blow this up like this?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. "They're not behind, Dad. They ran, and I'm done being dragged into their game." Silence stretched on the other end. "Who exactly are you trying to teach a lesson, Lily?" Mom hissed again, her tone losing the usual condescension. I propped my feet up on the desk, gazing at the New Haven skyline at night. "I'm not teaching anyone. I'm just letting everyone learn their own lessons." Her sobs started. Familiar, rehearsed, as if tears alone could make everything reset like before. But this time, I only felt exhaustion. "From now on, you and Dad can deal directly with the bank. I'm out. You'll regret this, Lily. You'll need us soon enough." I stared at the screen as her name lit up, then shut the phone off without hesitation. The next morning, I received the official notice from the bank. The debt transfer process was complete. My parents were now the legal debtors. Genesis sent me a brief message. "Done. Congratulations." I didn't reply. I didn't need congratulations. That afternoon, I stopped by their house. The 2-story symbol of their so-called American dream was now buried under a pile of foreclosure notices and bank-stamped envelopes scattered across the dining table. My father glared at me with hatred. My mother's face had gone ghostly pale. "We're going to lose the house, Lily. Is that what you wanted? This is the house you grew up in." I stood there, unblinking. "The house you mortgaged twice for Madison without asking me? Don't lecture me about family, Mom, when you've always treated me like an ape." Her tears flowed, but they meant nothing to me now. I paused at the door. "The bank is offering a payment plan. They sent the details to your email." Then I walked away, leaving them to face the price they willingly signed for. Exactly 10 days after the foreclosure notice, I heard the Vermont vacation home, the one I once dreamed would be my peaceful escape, was listed for public sale. The property was listed for a quick sale, priced nearly 1/3 below market value. That house, once an empty promise from my parents, "Lily will inherit it someday," was now reduced to collateral to cover their debts. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even angry anymore. The exhaustion had lifted from me the day I signed the paperwork transferring full responsibility back to the people who had spent years lecturing me about family obligations. That afternoon, my mother showed up at my office. She hadn't called ahead. The expensive dress she used to flaunt looked disheveled now, and no amount of makeup could hide the dark circles under her eyes. "Lily, you have to help us." Her voice was almost begging, a stark contrast to the arrogant tone I'd always known. I looked up from my laptop, my gaze cold. "I think you dialed the wrong number, Mom." She stepped inside, slamming the door behind her. "Don't do this, Lily. You can say whatever you want, but don't stand by and watch your family lose everything." I set my pen down, arms crossed. "Family? You only call me family when you need me to clean up the mess you and Madison created." "You're getting revenge, aren't you?" Her voice trembled. I let out a dry, hollow laugh. No, Mom, this isn't revenge. This is called consequences. Very different things. She clutched her designer bag tightly, her eyes hollow. They're threatening to seize the house. That house is your childhood, Lily. I nodded slowly. My childhood? The house you mortgaged twice without asking me? The house you let Madison and Brad use as their free vacation lodge all summer? That childhood memory? This time, her tears were real. No more theatrics, no more playing a part. She pulled out her phone, showing me streams of foreclosure warnings from the bank. Lily, if you help us with this, we'll pay you back, over time. We can rebuild as a family. You know that. You're the smartest one in the family. I didn't even glance at the phone. Exactly, because I'm the smartest, Mom, I know. This time there will be no later. This time, you and Dad will have to figure it out yourselves. Hey, but Madison is your sister. She'll pay. She's just struggling. I cut her off, my voice sharp as glass. Madison isn't struggling. Madison and Brad are partying in Dubai. I check their Instagram accounts daily. Seems like you're the only one still buying their promises. My mother collapsed into the chair. As if for the first time, she realized the world didn't operate the way she'd always believed. She looked at me, eyes red and swollen. Then what do you want, Lily? You want us thrown out on the streets? You want people to laugh at your parents? I stood, gathering my files. No. I want you and Dad, for once in your lives, to feel what it's like to face the consequences of your choices. I want you to feel the exact fear I felt when I scraped together my last penny to pay for Dad's medication, while Madison was posting selfies in Santorini. I turned away, grabbing my bag. The bank sent you the payment plan instructions. I suggest you actually read them this time. Her sobs behind me had lost all weight. I walked away, leaving them to face the chaos they created. That night, I sat alone in my small apartment, opened my laptop, and stared at the family's financial records I had archived for over a decade. Every dollar I had been forced to pay, every time I had bailed them out, now sat in that folder. I didn't need it anymore. I dragged the entire folder into the trash and hit delete. No more paperwork. No more debts disguised as family favors. No more weak, compliant Lily. Only me, and the hard-earned freedom I bought with my own pain. But I wasn't stopping at letting them feel financial ruin. That would have been too easy for what Madison and Brad had done. I wanted the truth exposed, for them to face justice for that shiny world they clung to so tightly, to finally see them for who they really were. I reopened the insurance folder on my computer, the one where I kept every piece of evidence I had collected over months of silent watching. Emails between Madison and Brad plotting to skip the debt, audio recordings of Brad bragging at a private party about how they were going to outsmart American banks and live large in Dubai, photos of Madison signing the purchase of a luxury beachfront villa while drowning in debt. I had it all meticulously organized. Genesis nodded when I sent her the complete file. With this kind of evidence, Lily, I guarantee they won't just face a fine. This is organized fraud. I didn't respond. I no longer needed promises. 3 days later, I officially submitted the file to the U.S. Department of Justice and the International Fraud Prevention Division. It took exactly 1 week for me to receive an email confirming the file was valid and had been forwarded to the Special Investigation Team. And then, everything started collapsing faster than I expected. The first news came from Genesis. Lily, turn on the local finance channel now. I turned on the TV and almost laughed when I saw Brad being escorted out of an investment conference by Dubai police, his face pale, hands cuffed in front of dozens of reporters' cameras. The news spread rapidly across social media. Brad's million-dollar startup was exposed as a front for tax evasion and illegal money transfers. His investor visa was immediately revoked. All his bank accounts in the U.S. were frozen. Madison panicked, posting a story begging for help. My family is being falsely accused. Someone help me find the best lawyer in Dubai. The comments under her post were flooded with mockery and insults. People relished seeing social media show-offs stripped of their illusions. I didn't comment. I simply sent the article link to my mother via text, along with exactly 3 words. I warned you. Her only response was an image of the bank's official notice seizing the Vermont vacation home. Everything my family had once been proud of, everything they used to look down on me, was dismantled, brick by brick. 3 days later, federal agents officially contacted me, inviting me to testify as the evidence provider. Genesis went with me to the hearing. She pushed the thick file onto the table, her voice calm. This is the complete evidence that Madison Carter and Bradley Evans had a plan to evade debt, launder money, and commit international fraud. I stared straight ahead, gripping my cold glass of water. I didn't tremble. They would face criminal charges. I didn't need to do anything more. That night, I received an international call. I didn't need to check the number to know who it was. I picked up, letting Madison sob on the other end. Billy? They froze all my accounts. I have nowhere to stay. I'm being held at the airport. Please, help me. I didn't change my tone. Did you forget to read Dubai's immigration laws? No money, no valid visa. They'll deport you. You want me dead, Lily? I'm your sister. I chuckled softly. My sister died the day she chose to lie and abandon the family. The person calling me now is just a criminal looking for rescue. Madison screamed, her voice cracking. Mom's falling apart, Dad can't sleep. You're destroying this family. No, I said, cutting her off. You and our parents did that long ago. I'm just not saving anyone anymore. I hung up and blocked the number. In my email, a notification from the Department of Justice appeared. The Carter-Evans international fraud case has officially moved to the prosecution stage. I clicked to save the notification into my folder, but this time, I didn't feel heavy anymore. The Vermont vacation home was relisted less than a month after the bank foreclosure. My parents had no other options. They were cornered, forced to accept a price far below its actual value, just to salvage the last shred of their so-called dignity. But dignity, to me now, was a luxury no one wanted to buy. I didn't hesitate. I bought that house back. Bought it for a dirt cheap price at a quiet auction where no one else cared. I didn't buy it for childhood memories, nor for the title of Carter family daughter. I bought it because I could, and because I wanted everything to end the way they deserved. On the day of handover, I went alone. I wanted to see for myself the place that once symbolized oppression, empty promises, and all those times my mother had said, "This house will be yours someday, Lily. But for now, let your sister enjoy it first." Now the house was legally and officially in my name, no one could dispute it. My parents had moved out, leaving behind whatever they couldn't carry. I walked through each room, the late autumn sunlight streaming through the dusty windows. The house looked older than I remembered. Or maybe it was just that my eyes no longer saw it through a nostalgic lens. That afternoon, I received a message from my mother. "Lily, can we come back to the house this weekend? We need to talk. As a family." I didn't reply. That night, my father called. "Lily, you've won already. What else do you want from us? We just want to come back to the house one last time, to talk like adults. No one else, just family." I thought about it for a moment, then agreed. But I wasn't going to let them think everything would return to the way it was. The next evening, they showed up right on time. I left the door open, didn't say a word, letting them walk into the house they once believed would forever be theirs. My mother looked around, her eyes watery. "You repainted. It looks much better." I didn't respond. My father pulled out a chair, his voice lowering. "Lily, you did what no one in this family thought you'd dare to do. I admit it, you made everyone pay the price." I crossed my arms, my eyes fixed on them. "I don't care for late confessions, Dad, just say it. What do you want?" My mother bit her lip, her eyes red. "Your father lost his job. We have nowhere to stay. Can you let us stay here for a while?" I let out a soft, hollow laugh. Stay? In this house where you once kicked me out of the living room because Madison and Brad needed creative space? In the house where you said Lily doesn't need it because I was too dull? My mother lowered her head, tears falling onto the cold wooden floor. We were wrong. Can you give us a chance? As family. I stood up, opened the door. Family? You only say that word when you need someone to save you. I'm not saving anyone anymore. This is my house. I live here, quietly, alone, and I won't let anyone cross this door again. My father opened his mouth to say something, but I raised my hand to stop him. If you still have any pride left, figure things out yourselves, like I've done for the past 10 years. If not, that's your choice. I stepped onto the porch, turning my back on them. The exit is in the back. Don't make me say it again. I didn't look back as I heard their heavy footsteps leaving the house. That night, I stood on the balcony, a glass of red wine in hand, watching the Vermont mountains fade under the cold moonlight. I didn't feel triumphant, nor satisfied. It was simply the feeling of someone finally sitting where they belonged, on the very land I had once been forced to give up. This house was now mine. No conditions, no debts, no imposed memories. Just a quiet, clean home where I could close the door on the past. And for the first time in all those years, I realized I felt empty. But it was a peaceful emptiness. I couldn't even remember the last time Madison called me. Maybe it was the day she was deported from Dubai, or when her last bank account was frozen. The messages, emails, desperate calls afterward just quietly flowed into the blocked list. I didn't need to listen anymore. There was nothing new in those pleas, just the same tired chorus. We're family. Family. A word I had been forced to believe for almost 40 years meant unconditional sacrifice. Now I understood that, to them, it was just a free pass to escape every consequence they created themselves. I was no longer Lily Carter, the obedient daughter of Albert and Vivian Carter. I was Lily, a free woman, living in her own house, making decisions entirely her own. The house in Vermont had been completely renovated by me. The old family photos had been taken down, the objects stuffed with stale memories boxed up and sold. I kept only what I chose to keep. Nothing remained that I hadn't decided deserved to exist in my space. The Genesis still stopped by on weekends, bringing wine and her sly smile. So, how does it feel, Lily? Owning the house, the life, and the silence. I smiled, pouring her another glass of wine. Lighter than I thought. Turns out, letting go of the people who drained me is easier than I ever imagined. Genesis leaned back in her chair, looking out at the woods behind the house. Sometimes, the best revenge is through legal contracts. Cold, legitimate, no need to shout. I nodded. I didn't need anyone to know what I had done. I didn't need the world to applaud. I didn't need Madison, Brad, or even my parents to beg for forgiveness, to feel like I'd won. I wasn't trying to win against anyone. I just wanted peace. Madison still posted blaming messages, saying I was cruel, that I'd destroyed her family. I didn't care. Everyone has their story to tell, and I didn't need to explain mine. My parents moved into a small rental apartment in the suburbs. Genesis told me that. But I didn't check, didn't ask, didn't give them a chance to enter my life again. One winter night, with snow covering the porch, I sat by the fireplace, holding a mug of hot cocoa, listening to the wind whistle through the windows. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no debt notices, no desperate texts. I couldn't even remember the last time I had to check my account balance. Everything I owned now was in my name. No shared owners, no shared debts. The years that once drained my tears, that once forced me to grit my teeth and sign check after check for Madison, for the family, for dreams that were never mine, were now nothing more than faded memories. I remembered those quiet nights, sitting by my father's hospital bed, in that cold operating room, while Madison flaunted selfies from Italy with captions like, "Life is meant to be enjoyed." The words my mother used to hurl at me like knives, the time she turned me into a walking ATM, had also become fragments of a sad dream I no longer cared to hold on to. I didn't wish for their apologies, nor did I need them to understand. What I needed was simply for them to disappear from my life, the same way I had slammed shut the door on the past once and for all. Some endings don't need loud revenge or dramatic declarations. Sometimes it's just silence. It's the deed to the house in my name, the clean bank accounts no one else can touch. The sound of the cold wind sweeping through the porch on a quiet night, where I sat alone but no longer lonely. I didn't know yet what I would do next, but at least I knew I would never again be someone's shadow, nor the familiar name on the list of people they called when they hit rock bottom. I had closed everything, not with tears, not with words, but with contracts, with signatures, with absolute clarity. And that was true freedom. From Lily's story, I realized that freedom doesn't come from loud revenge or waiting for remorse from those who hurt you. True freedom is having the courage to firmly close the door on the past, to set clear boundaries, and to live your life the way you choose. No one has the right to turn you into a walking wallet, and no one gets to define your worth through sacrifice. In the end, calm clarity and silent resolve are the sharpest weapons to reclaim your own life. What do you think about how Lily faced and closed the chapter of her painful past? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life family stories that are both captivating and meaningful.